Good morning. Today, in continuing with the prophets, let's look at Joel chapter 2, verses 28 and 29. Then afterward, I will pour out my spirit on all flesh. Your sons and your daughters shall prophesy. Your old men shall dream dreams, and your young men shall see visions. Even on the male and female slaves, in those days, I will pour out my spirit. The prophet Joel is talking about a time when God's spirit will be poured out on all flesh. That is to say, on all people. And God's spirit empowers us. The Spirit of God comes to bring life and to bring power to who? All people. And we see these very words are said to be fulfilled or take place elsewhere in the New Testament. Peter, the disciple of Jesus, he says that these words were fulfilled on a day that we recognize as Pentecost. That's the name given to this day when the Spirit was poured out on a group of Jews gathering together. This was Jesus's disciples, followers of Jesus. And the Spirit is poured out, and people are speaking in all sorts of languages. And other people, other Jews in the community that have come, it says, from every nation under heaven. There's people from all over the place that are coming, and they're saying, wait, these are locals, but how do they know my language? How are they speaking my language? And everyone was understanding each other equally, speaking different languages. There was this understanding of one another. And so this day called Pentecost, the very day that Peter says that the words of Joel take place, that was the start in the initiation of Jesus's movement. So Jesus' movement starts in a multicultural, multilingual, many languages, and multi-ethnic beginning. And what we see here in Joel is that the Spirit is poured out on all people. The power of God is for all people. Now, as a white person, in speaking to those who may be listening for who this is relevant, white people have dominated conversation tables, put ourselves front and center, and that's the easiest. It's kind of, if we don't, try to do anything different, that's where the society might tend to gravitate. By the way, if you're hearing noises outside, there's some people fixing a door. So that's just what has happened in the society as it's been set up. But that's not what we're seeing happening here or on the day of Pentecost, right? The idea is for mutual understanding in Pentecost, for the power of the Spirit to be on all people, not for one specific type of person or people to be dominating, right? And it's interesting here, we even see that there's kind of different classes or ways that the Spirit is poured out on people. So we get first gender, sons and daughters, age, old, young. And then we have, it says, even on the male and female slaves. When I first read that, I thought, that's strange, talking about even the slaves. Well, that was the movement that everything started from. If you look at the book of Exodus, it was the slaves that God was rescuing. So why would it say even, the slaves? Okay, then I thought, well, maybe it's saying even, not because it's a surprise to God that, the people that had been enslaved are included in that, but because it's a surprise to the people in that time who maybe their ancestors were were slaves, but they had been in a position where they had been not treating others with that level of dignity or promoting their power and equality. So, what we have happening here in Joel is a push for both power and equality. And going back to what I was talking about, as a white person and as white people, we need to repent for the ways that we have misunderstood people of color, and specifically reflecting this time of African Americans and in their fight for power. And one of those ways I was reminded just yesterday of the Black Panther Party and their slogan, and how sorely we have misunderstood, as white people in general have misunderstood the Black Panther Party, for example, and other pushes for some justice and equality. And why I want to bring that up is because there was a slogan of the Black Panther Party that said, "All power to the people." And it goes on to list off and name and identify the power to each group, each sort of people group as it has been labeled by the constructs of race. But they're saying that power is for all people. And so we cannot say that all lives matter until there is power for all people. We cannot say that there is power to all people and that Joel is fulfilled until there is power for all people. And I just want to end with the words of William J. Barber II. And he speaks about the ruach. That's the spirit. The very word for spirit right here, it also means breath. And he says that in the very last breaths of George Floyd, that those may be, our breaths and our heart cries. And so when we're seeing the call for justice, and he says these protests are just trying to breathe. And the establishment of justice is just trying to breathe. And we want more than just trying to breathe. We want that empowerment, that life, that breath of spirit that lifts out of the ash heap. And that breath of spirit that gives abundant life, as Jesus promises. Bless you all.